Hello. So, this is the first time I'm trying something like this. I will be reading from this book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And I have been reading this book for a while now, so at present I'm on the sixth chapter. So, I will be continuing from there. And I hope you'll enjoy it. This chapter is called The Hypnotic Rhythm. So, this book is basically split in questions and answers. The questions are what the author asks the devil, and the answers are what the devil answered to him. So, this is the first question asked by the author in this chapter. What is this mysterious law through which you take permanent control of people's bodies, even before you take over their souls? The whole world will want to know more about this law and how it operates. It will be hard to describe the law, so you will understand it, but you may call it hypnotic rhythm. It is the same law through which people can be hypnotized. So you have the power to use the laws of nature as a web in which you bind your victims in eternal control. Is that your claim? That is not only my claim, it is the truth. I take over their minds and bodies even before they die, whenever I can lure them or frighten them into hypnotic rhythm. What is hypnotic rhythm? How do you use it to gain permanent mastery over human beings? I will have to go back into time and space and give you a brief elementary description of how nature uses hypnotic rhythm. Otherwise, you will not be able to understand my description of how I use this universal law to control human beings. Go ahead, but keep your story confined to simple illustrations which come within the range of my own experiences and knowledge of natural laws. Very well, I shall do my best. You, of course, know that nature maintains a perfect balance between all the elements and all the energy in the universe. You can see that the stars and the planets move with perfect precision, each one keeping its own place in time and space. You can see that the seasons of the year come and go with perfect regularity. You can see that an oak tree grows from an acorn and a pine grows from the seed of its ancestor. An acorn never produces a pine, and a pine seed never produces an oak. These are simple things which anyone can understand. What one cannot see is the universal law through which nature maintains perfect balance throughout the myriad of universes. You earthbound caught a fragmentary glimpse of this great universal law when Newton discovered that it holds your earth in its position and causes all material objects to be attracted towards the center of the earth. He called the law gravitation, but he did not go far enough in his study of the law. If he had, he would have discovered that the same law which holds your earth in position and helps nature to maintain a perfect balance over the future dimensions in which all matter and energy are contained is the web in which I entangle and control the minds of human beings. So in this last question here that I just read, the devil goes into like a very detailed description of like universal laws, though it may not be something that you understand right now. It's kind of like a pattern in this book. When the author asks the devil for some kind of an explanation, he goes kind of into like this tangent of elaborate universal laws in order to dodge the question or in order to distract the author. So if you didn't understand this is like kind of a pattern in this book which keeps like happening over and over again, where he goes into these complicated explanations of universal laws that regular people like you and me may not be able to understand. Okay, next question. Tell me more of this astounding law of hypnotic rhythm. As I have already stated, there is universal form of energy with which nature keeps a perfect balance between all matter and energy. She makes specialized use of this universal building material by breaking it up into different wavelengths. The breaking up process is carried on through habit. You will better understand what I am trying to convey if I compare it with the method by which one learns to play music. At first, the notes are memorized in the mind. Then, they are related to one another through melody and rhythm. By repetition, the melody and rhythm become fixed in the mind. Observe how relentlessly the musician must repeat a tune before he masters it. Through repetition, the musical notes blend and then you have music. Any impulse of thought that the mind repeats over and over through habit forms an organized rhythm. Undesirable habits can be broken. They must be broken before they assume the proportions of rhythm. Are you following me? Yes. Well, to continue, rhythm is the last stage of habit. Any thought or physical movement which is repeated over and over through principle of habit finally reaches the proportion of rhythm. Then the habit cannot be broken because nature takes it over and makes it permanent. It is something like a whirlpool in water. An object may keep floating indefinitely unless it is caught in a whirlpool. Then it is carried round and round, but it cannot escape. The energy with which people think may be compared with water in a river. So this is the way in which you take control of the minds of people, is it? Yes. All I have to do is gain control over any mind is to induce its owner to drift. So the word drift may show up multiple times. Basically, drifting is this thing that the devil talks about a lot in this book. So if you're interested, you could read the book and find out about drifting, or I could get into the drifting topic in some other video and read the chapter before this one. So in a nutshell, drifting is when a person starts doing things or starts thinking things and creating thought patterns mindlessly, where you are not consciously aware of what you are thinking and if it's healthy for you and how it's affecting your life, and you just keep repeating the same thought pattern or the same habits over and over and over again, and then after a point it kind of becomes a subconscious action that you don't even have to be alert in order to carry out. So that is drifting, when a person basically gives up their control over their thoughts and their freedom of creating new thoughts and changing their track of thoughts and habits. They start drifting. And in the previous chapter, the devil mentions the habit of drifting or the pattern of drifting as one of his strongest tools in order to take control of a person's mind. Okay. Am I to understand that the habit of drifting is the major danger through which people lose their prerogative or privilege of thinking their own thoughts and shaping their own earthly destinations? What I just said, drifting is basically a person giving up their freedom of independent thought. That and much more. Drifting is also the habit through which I take over their souls after they give up their physical bodies. Then the only way a human being can be saved from eternal annihilation is by maintaining control over his own mind while he is on this earth. Is that true? You have stated the truth perfectly. Those who control and use their own minds escape my web. I get all the others as naturally as the sun sets in the west. Says the devil, those who control and use their own minds escape my web. Is that all there is to the business of being saved from eternal annihilation? Doesn't what you call your opposition have anything to do with saving people? So you see this part here. Doesn't what you call your opposition? So the devil has mentioned that he is the representation of all negative energy in the world, and his opposition is the representation of all positive energy in the world. So in regular terms, this opposition that he talks about is what most people consider as God, or the all-powerful positive force, and the devil is the all-powerful negative force. So the devil addresses God as his opposition. I can see that you do think very deeply. My opposition, the power you earthbound call God, has everything to do with the salvation of people from eternal annihilation. And for that reason, it is my opposition who provides every human being with the privilege of using his own mind. So, cutting out for a minute. So, I felt like adding this to this reading. So every time that you're on a train of thought and you see that the train of thoughts that you're on is what you have been on for a while, and it's like not a response but a reaction. You're not responding to a situation or something, but you are reacting to it. Basically, the thoughts that come up in your head and the response that comes up within you, emotional response and thought patterns that come to you as a response to a situation or something, and they're kind of like, at this point, they're happening on like autopilot, and you're not actively thinking if this response is the required response, or if this response is even valid, or does it even make sense, or if you're just repeating thought patterns based on past experiences. Then that is a point where you could like point it out to yourself that this is the devil functioning within my brain. And when you break that old pattern of thoughts and you point out to yourself that I am thinking from a place of fear, I'm thinking from a place of doubt, I'm thinking worst case scenario right now. And when you become aware of that and you are consciously looking at your thoughts as if it were a movie playing out, and you were looking at your own thoughts from like a third person point of view, and you're not suffering from your thoughts, and you're like looking at it from the outside, and you see how dysfunctional your thoughts are and just how much they are based on past pain and past experiences, and they don't necessarily have to play out again. And you see that dysfunctional aspect of your thoughts, that is God acting within you, and that is God bringing your attention towards your negative thought patterns. And that is basically God telling you that look at what you're thinking, look at what you're doing with your thoughts, look at what you're doing with your mind. You're helping the devil by constantly replaying this fear-based thought pattern, and you need to step out of this. In those moments when you have this third person point of view towards your own thought, towards your own life, towards your own behaviors, that is God helping you. And every time you have that kind of an insight to your own mind, you need to actively step out of the old thought patterns and the dysfunctional thought patterns and take God's hand and walk in the direction that He's leading you, and walk in the direction that this positive force of energy is taking you away from this negative force of energy, and walk in that direction. Don't go back to the old thought patterns. Don't fall for that trap again. Okay. If you use that power by maintaining control over your own mind, you become a part of it when you give up your physical body. Okay, so the more you actively align with thoughts sent to you by God, thoughts that you are led to by God, the more you dwell in those kind of thought patterns, the more you are aligning yourself with that positive energy, and the more you increase your chances of having a more heavenly experience later on, which is what the devil is saying here. Okay. If you neglect to use it, then I have the privilege of taking advantage of the neglect through the law of hypnotic rhythm. So every time you ignore positive guidance coming from God, every time you neglect new direction from the positive energy, you are helping the devil. You're helping the negative energy like root itself further deep into your subconscious mind and generate this hypnotic rhythm that after a while you can't escape from, or it like becomes really difficult to escape from. So every time you have that moment of like a flash of consciousness that what on earth am I thinking, like it's not necessarily true, it's just based on observation and past patterns, and it's not necessary that what's happened in the past will play out again. And every time you look at that mindset head on, you are pulling out the roots that the devil had previously laid in your mind and in your subconscious, and you are breaking this hypnotic rhythm that you had been in, or you are stopping from a rhythm as such from generating. So how much of a person do you take over when you gain control of him? Everything that is left after he ceases to control and use his own mind. In other words, when you gain control of a person, you take over all there is of his individuality up to the time that he quits using his own mind. Is that correct? That is how I operate. What do you do with people whom you control before death? Or of what good are they to you while they live? I use them, or what is left of then after I take charge, as propagandists to help me prepare the minds of others to drift. So here's another point that I want to like talk about something. Every time you hear someone teach you something, give you some kind of advice that is based on fear, you need to tell yourself that this is not the right source of information. This is not the right source of guidance. Because basically, so far, what the devil's talked about in this book is every thought of fear is created by the devil. And in reality, there is actually nothing to fear. But the fact that we do fear things is what makes the devil's job easier and helps him physically manifest those things in our life. And the only reason that we experience negative things physically is because we fear things and we have negative thoughts, and we have all these negative preconceived notions about how a certain situation is going to play out, and we keep feeding that notion with more and more thoughts, and to the point that we feed it so much of our own personal energy that it becomes very easy for the devil, or very easy for the negative force, very easy for the energy that we have put behind this thought to physically manifest itself. So every time someone's telling you to be aware of something, be cautious of something, or telling you that this is how it usually happens, so this is how it will happen. Basically, things like statistics that scare you, statistics that generate fear in you, people's personal stories that generate fear in you, ignore them. Because when you do pay attention to them, you are feeding your energy to them. You're siphoning away your energy to the fear-based notions, the fear-based ideas, fear-based expectations, which make the devil's job that much easier to manifest it in your life physically. Okay, so where was I? You not only fool people into destroying their power to control their own minds, but you use them to help you trap others. Yes, I let no opportunity get away from me. Let us come back to the subject of hypnotic rhythm. Tell me more of how this law works. Show me how you use individuals to help you gain control over others. I want to know something of the most effective way you use hypnotic rhythm. Oh, that's easy. The thing I like best is to fill the minds of people with fear. Once I fill one's mind with fear, I have little trouble causing them to drift until I have entangled them in the web of hypnotic rhythm. What human fear best serves your purpose? The fear of death. Why is the fear of death your favorite weapon? Because no one knows, and by the very nature of the laws of the universe, no one can prove definitely what happens after death. This uncertainty frightens people out of their wits. People who give over their minds to fear, any sort of fear, neglect to use their minds and begin to drift. Eventually, they drift into the whirlpool of hypnotic rhythm from which they may never escape. Then you do not mind what religious leaders think or say of you when they speak of death. Not as long as they say something. If the churches should stop talking about me, my cause would receive a severe setback. Every attack made against me fixes the fear of me in the minds of all who are influenced by it. You see, opposition is the thing that keeps some people from drifting, providing they do not yield to it. So here the devil says that talking about him gives him more energy, and the fear that religious institutes and religious leaders generate about his existence is what creates further power, gives more momentum to his purpose, because the more you feed fear to someone, the more the person receiving that information gets afraid of something and is more likely to make fear-based decisions and start making decisions in order to avoid hell or avoid eternal damnation. And the more thoughts and actions they create from a place of fear, the more the devil gains control over them, because the whole point of the whole structure on which the devil operates is fear. So the more you fear anything, the more the devil gets control over you. Since you claim the church's help instead of hindering your cause, tell me what would give you cause to worry. My only worry is that someday a real thinker may appear on earth. What would happen if a thinker did appear? You ask me what would happen. I'll tell you what would happen. People would learn the greatest of all truths, that the time they spend in fearing something would, if reversed, give them all they want in the material world and save them from me after death. Isn't that worth thinking about? Says the devil. The time people, spend in fearing something would, if reversed, give them all they want in the material world and save them from me after death. So basically, this kind of reminds me of what Bashar talks about, that every time you are to make a decision and you are afraid of a certain outcome, or if you're hesitating from making a decision that really brings you to joy and happiness and fulfillment, ask yourself, what am I afraid of in this situation? And usually that will point out what it is that you need to do in the opposite direction, so that you make a full 180-degree turn away from the fear. And you tell yourself that once you look at what it is that you fear most, you see the irrationality in your fear. And you basically, at that point, it becomes much easier for you to see what it is that you should do rather, in order to go towards love and light and faith and hope, instead of making fear-based decisions, instead of being like, I have to take this job because if I don't, I won't have any money to support myself. Instead of which, if you just pursued something that you loved and enjoyed, you would naturally have that security, which you were probably not expecting. You hadn't expected that you could do what you love, you could do what seems easy and comes to you naturally, instead of doing what's uncomfortable, doing what's burdensome and does not bring you joy. What is keeping such a thinker from appearing in the world? Fear of criticism. It may interest you to know that the fear of criticism is the only effective weapon I have with which to whip you. If you were not afraid to publish this confession after you wring it from me, I would lose my earthly kingdom. And the devil basically throughout the book talks multiple times about how the author of this book, Napoleon Hill, would not be able to publish it. And actually, that is what happened. This book was actually not published after it was written. It was published like decades and decades later, because the author and the author's family was afraid of what the public response would be. And if I did surprise you and publish it, how long would it be until you lost your kingdom? Just long enough for one generation of children to grow into understanding. You cannot take the adults from me. I have them too securely sewed up. But if you published this confession, it would be sufficient to keep me from gaining control of the yet unborn and those who have not yet reached the age of reason. You wouldn't dare publish what I have told you about the religious leaders. They would crucify you. Yeah, which is basically why this book wasn't published until much later. The author and the author's family was afraid of what the response from the public would be, especially the religious community, because this whole thing is a conversation with the devil. And a lot of religions have like this monopoly on the concept of devil, and they think that what they preach is the only right way of perceiving the devil. And so if like any unestablished person, any unestablished school of thought were to talk about their opinion of the devil, they would like receive a major backlash from the systems, the religions that are already established, because they think that the only way that they perceive things is the right way. The only way that they have been taught things is the right way. So that is something that kept this book from being published for decades, because the people knew, the author and the author's family knew that the people of this world would be very unreceptive towards this school of thought, that the existence of devil is only powered by the fear that is fed to people. And the moment you stop making people afraid of the devil, stop talking about the devil will lose a lot of his power. The negative aspect of existence would lose a lot of its power, because once you move your attention away from something, you stop feeding your power to it, it stops manifesting in your life. So the way that people preach about doing certain things in order to protect yourself, protect your soul from the devil, is what contributes towards you succumbing to the devil. So the whole idea, the whole process of teaching people about the existence of devil and what to do and what not to do to protect your soul from hell is what gives the concept of hell further power. All right. I thought the savage practice of crucifixion went out of style 2,000 years ago. I don't mean crucifixion on a cross, I mean social and financial crucifixion. Your income would be shut off. You would become a social outcast. religious leaders and their followers alike would treat you with scorn. Suppose I should choose to throw my lot with the select a few who make pretense of using their own minds rather than fear the masses who do not, the masses of whom you claim 98%. If you have courage enough to do this, you will crimp my style. A chill ran down my spine when I first read this. Since circumstances did indeed prevent this manuscript written in 1938 from being published until now, well after Hill's death in 1970, was delayed publication of the work truly caused by his wife's fear of criticism and concern over the reaction of religious leaders and public school advocates? Or was it due to the work of the devil himself? And now, the family and the foundation have decided it is time to share the manuscript with the world. Shall we heed Hill's wisdom, discover our other self, and take control of our own mind, reclaiming our destiny? Okay, so these little texts here that appear in these boxes is commentary from Sharon Lecter. And basically these bits were added to the main manuscript in the time of the publication of this version. Basically this book was published much like decades after this was written, and not only was it published after Hill's death, it was published after Hill's wife's death. His wife was basically afraid of publishing this book because she was afraid of backlash from society, from religious people, from established schools of thought. And that is what kept this book from being published for like several decades. And when she says here that was the delayed publication of the work truly caused by his wife's fear of criticism and concern over the reaction of religious leaders and public school advocates, or was it due to the work of the devil himself? The thing is, the fear of criticism and the fear of the reaction from religious leaders and public school advocates is the devil himself working through them. So it's not an either or situation. It is the devil himself working through fear. Fear is the emotional manifestation of the devil. It's the devil's tool through which he controls people. Why do you lay claim to know scientists? Don't you like scientists? Oh yes, I like all people well enough, but true scientists are out of my reach. Why? Because they think for themselves and spend their time studying natural laws. They deal with cause and effect. They deal with facts wherever they find them. But do not make the mistake of believing scientists have no religion. They have a very definite religion. What is this religion? The religion of truth. The religion of natural law. If the world ever produces an accurate thinker with ability to fathom the deeply buried secret of life and death, you can be sure that science will be responsible for that catastrophe. Catastrophe to whom? To me, of course. Let's get back to the subject of hypnotic rhythm. I want to know more about it. Is it something like the principle through which people can hypnotize one another? It is precisely the same thing. I have already told you so. Why do you repeat your questions? That is an old worldly custom of mine, Your Majesty. So the author here addresses the devil as Your Majesty. It's a funny little bit. You'll find out if you read the previous chapter, or maybe I will read it for you. For your enlightenment, I will tell you I am forcing you to repeat many of your statements for the sake of emphasis. I am also trying to see if I can catch you in a lie. Don't dodge the issue. Get back to Hypnotic Rhythm and tell me all you know about it. Am I a victim of it? Not now, but you barely missed falling into my web. You drifted toward the whirlpool of Hypnotic Rhythm until you discovered how to force me into making this confession. Then I lost control of you. How interesting. You are not trying to recapture me, though. You are not trying to recapture me through flattery, are you? That would be the best bribe I could offer you. It is the bribe I used on you effectively before you got the upper hand of me. With what did you flatter me? With many things, chief among them sex and the desire for self-expression. What effect did your bribes have on me? They caused you to neglect your major purpose in life and started you to drifting. Was that all you did to me through your bribes? That was plenty. Am I back on the track and out of your reach now? Am I not? Yes, you are temporarily out of my reach because you are not drifting. What broke your spell over me and released me from the habit of drifting? My answer may humiliate you. Do you want to hear it? Go ahead and give it to me, Your Majesty. I wish to learn how much truth I can stand. When you found a great love in the woman of your choice, I lost my grip on you. So you are going to accuse me of hiding behind a woman's skirts, are you? No, not hiding. I wouldn't put it that way. I would say you have learned how to give yourself a solid background with the embellishment of a woman's mind. The woman's skirt has nothing to do with it then. No, but her brain does. When you and your wife began to combine your two brains through your habit of master minding every day, you stumbled upon the secret power with which you forced me into this confession. Is that the truth, or are you trying to flatter me again? I could flatter you if I had you alone, but I cannot flatter you while you have the use of your wife's mind. I'm beginning to catch on to something important. I am beginning to understand what was meant by the writer of the passage in the Bible, which says substantially, when two or more meet together and ask for anything in my name, it shall be granted. It is true, then, that two minds are better than one. It is not only true, it is necessary before anyone can continuously contact the great storehouse of infinite intelligence, wherein is stored all that is, all that ever was, and all that can ever be. Is there such a storehouse? If there had not been, you would not, could not, now be humiliating me with this silly forced confession. Okay, so I think I'll stop the reading here for now. And basically what we got out of this reading is that the devil talks about people getting into this trance of thought patterns after they have been entertaining the same sort of vibration, the same sort of thoughts, the same sort of habits for a while mindlessly without applying their power of free thought. And another thing we got out of this is the devil emphasizes on the power of more than one person focusing on a certain subject as compared to one person pushing on alone, and that the power of two minds is better than one. What else did we get from here? Oh yes, we got that the fear of reaction from people around you can stop you from doing things, and that is something that supports the cause of the devil. So if there is anything that you are afraid of doing, if there is anything that you feel self-conscious about doing, and you are worried about how someone around you will react to it, that is probably a wake-up call for you. That is a pointer for you that you are operating under the tool of fear, which is the tool of the devil. So if you're afraid of criticism, you're afraid of reaction from people, that is your first sign that you have to do it. You need to do it in order to get over that fear. Because unless you get over a certain fear, you are still operating under the devil. All right. What else did we get? We got this. Do not listen to people preaching from a place of fear. Do not entertain talk of fear of the devil, fear of hell, fear of any form. People who are preaching fear-based thought are being controlled by the devil. Okay. What do you do with people whom you control before death? Of what good are they to you while they live? I use them, or what is left of then after I take charge, as propagandists to help me prepare the minds of others to drift. So people who will feed you fear-based information will cause you to drift. They will cause you to do things out of fear, out of a place of need for desperation for security and safety, because you do not believe that you will find security and safety in doing things that make you happy naturally. And they will make you do things out of a sense of fear. So that is the whole point of propaganda. All right, so I'll close this reading here for now, and we'll continue this reading later. Bye-bye. Thanks for coming here. Thanks for watching this reading. Thanks for coming to my channel. I also post other content about spirituality. I do tarot readings, I do tarot unboxings, and I will be doing a lot more readings like this, and I will be reading from this book again. So if you want to keep up with all that content, do not forget to subscribe, and do not forget to check out other content. Bye-bye.